Hi everybody, it's me, Candy Corpse, and tonight I'd like to do a video where I recommend some books that I think my fellow Goths would like. The first author I'd really like to talk about is Poppy Z. Brite, who is probably one of my favorite authors of all time. Poppy Z. Brite has this way where he can make even the most grotesque and gruesome things seem decadent and beautiful, and I just love that about him. For example, Exquisite Corpse is about two gay necrophiliac serial killers who eat people. But even though at times, even though at times it's sort of sickening and disgusting, at the same time, you have to keep reading, and it doesn't put you off because of the way that he describes it. He describes gore in such a beautiful way, and I don't think any other author can really compare to his expertise in doing that, I guess. A bit lighter, but still pretty gory and heavy, is Lost Souls by Poppy Z. Brite. And it's got everything a goth kid could want, in my opinion. It's got vampires, it's got sets, it's got all these gruesome things that happen in it, and it's really good. It's about a boy named Nothing who runs away from home to find his favorite band of all things, and on the way there he finds vampires, and it's just really good, and I do think you have to read it when you're a teenager to really fully enjoy it. But even if you're not a teenager, I guess I recommend it. I mean, I'm almost 20 now and I still like it, but I guess that's not saying much about age. But yeah, it's still really good in my opinion, and I read it when I was 13, and I reread it all the time. It's so good. Another book by him that I'd recommend is Drawing Blood, which I also have, but I didn't feel like getting it down off the shelf, as well as his short story collection, Wormwood. And all of the stories in Wormwood are really good, and I definitely recommend them to you guys. He has a couple of other short story collections which are all really good, and I love anything that Poppy Z. Brite writes, but he does sort of step out of the horror genre later on in his career, which is when a lot of his other short stories were collected and published, and they're not quite as dark or grim as I would like, but they're still really well written, and if you like his writing style, I still highly recommend checking them out. Another author that I'd really like to recommend is Caitlin R. Kiernan, who wrote The Drowning Girl, which is, in my opinion, her best work. It's a fantastic ghost story, and it's also a really good portrait of what it means to be crazy and what it's like to be crazy. She doesn't portray her character Imp, who has schizophrenia, as a deranged monster, or as we picture someone who is crazy to be crazy. And I have to thank her for doing a pretty good job at describing a person with mental illness. And another thing about Caitlin R. Kiernan is many of her characters suffer from some mental illness or another, and there are usually drugs involved, and so the lines between reality and just and hallucinations, I guess, are often blurred, and you're not really sure what's actually happening, which I can understand why some people might not like that, but I really enjoy it, and I hope you guys do too. I also really recommend the book Silk, which is, in my opinion, far gothier, I guess, than The Drowning Girl, but I prefer The Drowning Girl in all honesty. But yeah, Silk has to do with death rock clubs and punk bands and a girl named Spider, and just it's a mess, but it's so much fun, and I really recommend it. And they also, Caitlin R. Kiernan also has a really beautiful writing style that I think you guys would really enjoy. Another book series that I'd like to recommend is the Blood Opera Sequence by Kenneth Lee. I think there are 3 books in this series, and they are Dark Dance, Personal Darkness, and one second, let me look. I'm sorry. God, I'm terrible. Darkness Eye, I think is what it's called. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm terrible. Oh, but it's really, really good, and tragic, and horrific, and dark. But not on the level that Poppy Z. Bride is. It's not gory to that extent, but it is an excellent vampire series if you like vampires like I do, and I highly recommend it. I'd also really like to recommend The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is a fantastic author, and all of his stuff is really, really good, but I've hit this one out specifically because it's just so darn cute. Like, I don't know, it's just, like, it just makes my heart feel warm whenever I read it, and it's about a boy whose family is murdered. I know that's weird, that makes your heart feel warm, but no, but it's, about a boy whose family is murdered, and, he manages to crawl his way to the graveyard to a graveyard near his house as a baby, and he is then brought up by ghosts. And it's told in a way that each chapter is a short story revolving around Nobody. That's the character's name, for the record. Nobody is the boy who's raised by ghost, and it's told in a way that's very similar to The Jungle Book. If you ever read that as a child, which I did, and I enjoy that way of writing and piecing together a novel through a bunch of single short stories in a way to create a larger narrative. And it's really good, and I highly recommend reading that one around Halloween time with maybe like a nice cup of hot cocoa or coffee, maybe. Pumpkin spice latte. Oh, and the final book I'd like to recommend is Freak Show. Freak Show is very different than some of the other books on this list because each chapter is written by a different author, but it flows perfectly, which is strange because you'd think that many different writers would have... It might clash a bit in a way as far as writing style goes, and it might not work, but it does, and it works so well, and it's very intriguing, especially if you're interested in freak shows, and if you like the American Horror Story Season 4 Freak Show, which I didn't, but I'd recommend it to those people and people who like the book Geek Love or are just interested in freak shows in general. It's really, really good, despite what the cover might have you thinking, and it's beautifully written, and it's just a phenomenal novel, and I love it a lot. Oh, but that's all for now, you guys. Leave me some book recommendations down in the comments if you have any books that you think I might like, and I hope this was useful to all of you, and have a good evening. Bye, guys!